What did week 3 teach us? It taught us that Brett Favre is still old and slow. Thank God you were on a bye this week. Speaking of byes this week, if you have Dallas, Minnesota, Kansas City, or Tampa Bay players, you're going to need to find a replacement for those guys. Luckily for you, I've got my week 4 stardoms and situms coming up now.
Mean Johnny Greene, he's really, really mean. Mean Johnny Greene, did we mention that he's mean?
I told you not to pick that dude, but his team, well, they suck. His arm's more suited for flipping burgers. You picked a Browns player? You're an idiot. All right, let's jump right into quarterbacks. I like Mark Sanchez at Buffalo. That is obviously a nice matchup against the Bums. I also like Donovan McNabb returning to Philadelphia. He's still got plenty of gas left in the tank. And one of my favorite things to do is start ex-players against their former team. At the running back position, I really like Jonathan Stewart at New Orleans. I think for Carolina to succeed, they're going to have to pound the rock. That means Jonathan Stewart and D'Angelo Williams should get plenty of opportunities. I also like Peyton Hillis versus Cincinnati. Peyton Hillis to me equals Mike Allstott, and I heart him. All right, let's move along to the wide receiver position. I like Devon Best versus New England in PPR leagues. This guy is money in PPR leagues. You can write him down for 5 to 6 catches and 55 to 70 yards or so. I also like Derek Mason at Pittsburgh. At Pittsburgh, what are you thinking? Well, Anquan Bolden went off last week, and for Baltimore to succeed, they're going to have to throw. So D-Mace is sure to be on the end of some of those passes. Book him. All right, I've got one tight end I like for you this week. I like Tony Scheffler at Green Bay. Detroit quarterback Sean Hill is captain checkdown, and Scheffler is sure to be option numero uno, baby. All right, let's talk about some defenses. New York's Gangrene travels to the boys of Buffalo. Since the Gangrene are already a top fantasy defense, that one's obviously a no-brainer. I also like Atlanta at home versus San Francisco. San Francisco hasn't really hit their stride yet, and they just fired their offensive coordinator. I expect Atlanta to do pretty well in that matchup. Fail. All right, moving along to situms. I'm not really liking Matt Hasselbeck at St. Louis. His yardage totals are fine, but he has more interceptions than touchdowns and a QB rating of 75. I think you could probably do a little bit better. Ray Rice at Pittsburgh is my running back sit for the week. He'll join the likes of Michael Turner, Chris Johnson, Cadillac Williams. All of those running backs have been held for under 100 yards by the stingy Pittsburgh defense. At wide receiver, Calvin Johnson at Green Bay will find a first-class ticket to my bench. As I said earlier, Sean Hill is captain checkdown. Megatron is averaging only 53 yards a game in his 2 starts. At tight end, Owen Daniels is a shell of his former self. He's recovering from a knee injury this offseason, and he just hasn't looked up to snuff. Even though they take on Oakland, I'd look elsewhere. On defense, don't start the G-Men of New York against Chicago. Mike Martz has Chicago's offense moving, and I look for them to be able to score relatively easily against New York. All right, that's it for week 4. Check back next Wednesday for another edition of Stardom Situm. If you have any questions or comments, you can hit me up at meanjohnnygreen@gmail.com. You can also check out my updated player rankings for week 4 at 963jackfm.com. I'm Mean Johnny Greene, urging you to live the fantasy.